The thing about saffron, it's really expensive, among the costliest spices out there. But then again, not like saffron is the foundation of human rights and freedoms. That would be democracy. But guess what? Like saffron, democracy too is becoming expensive, specifically American democracy. Let me explain. Joe Biden's campaign has released its financial data. Get ready to be shocked. The campaign raised $72 million in the second quarter of this year, $72 million in 3 months. Put together, the campaign has around $77 million in cash. Biden's rivals are nowhere near. Donald Trump's campaign has raised around $35 million in the same period. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis raised $20 million. You may think that's a lot of money, but by next year, these numbers will be even higher. Let's look at 2020, the last election year, the presidential election. Biden's campaign raised $1 billion. It was a first in U.S. election history, $1 billion of campaign money. Trump's campaign raised around $774 million. Where did all of this money come from? Until 2010, campaign money came from direct donations. But then came a U.S. Supreme Court judgment. The court said corporations must also be allowed to donate. If not, it would restrict freedom of speech. You can imagine what happened next. Corporate America flooded all election campaigns. In 2020, total spending for the presidential race was $5.7 billion. For Congress, it was $8.7 billion. Put together, the total expense was $14.4 billion. Let me put that number in perspective. The GDP of 70 countries, 70 countries, is less than $14 billion. In other words, the US spends the GDP of 70 countries to elect lawmakers. Afterwards, they call them public servants. The humble people devoted to serving the public. There are two problems with that trend. One, the ridiculous numbers. It doesn't matter if you're the richest country in the world, $14 billion is too much money. Democracy should not cost that much. And two, the influence that comes with this kind of money. In 2016, the NRA donated around $30 million to Donald Trump. What is the NRA? The National Rifle Association. It's a major pro-gun lobby in the US. They donated a lot of money to Donald Trump, and guess what Trump did after coming to office? He made it easier to buy guns. Imagine this happening across state legislatures and Congress. Each lawmaker funded by some sort of interest, maybe anti-abortion or pro-guns or anti-climate action, tells you why America is facing so many political divides. The democracy is built on money. If big corporations want to, they can make anyone the US president. If not Biden or Trump, then someone else. The question is, where is this money going? Now, some expenses are understandable. For example, travel. The US is the 4th largest country by area, so covering each state and city will be expensive. It will cost money. But what about the advertisements? A huge chunk of the expense is for running television and social media ads. Again, I have some numbers for you. In the 2022 midterm elections, around $6.4 billion was spent on ads. $6.4 billion. It's become a race of sorts. Who can take out more advertisements and smear campaigns? The US media does not bother to question this. And why would they? After all, they are the ones getting all this ad money. It's the perfect vicious circle. The fact is, big corporates have turned American democracy into a spectacle. Just think about it. Where else do you have 2-year-long campaigns and made-for-TV debates? Or unrestricted corporate donations, or television networks calling elections and deciding the winner? It's not about counting the votes, it's about counting the dollars. And for the record, other countries have done much better. In the last UK general election, the Conservatives spent $20 million. That's it, $20 million for the party's greatest victory since 1987. Canada, too, has done better. Their entire general election cost around $650 million. It's a lot, but nothing compared to $14 billion. And what about India? The 2019 general election cost around $8 billion. This includes campaign spending and organizational costs. Now, some context here. The US is around 170 million voters. India has around 940 million. At first glance, the costs seem justified, but we should keep an eye on the trajectory. Election expenses in India have increased 6-fold in the last 2 decades. We can't let this figure run away. In the US, That's exactly what has happened. Democracy and elections became commoditized in America, a spectacle for everyone to make a buck.